Hello, runners, non-runners, and those who are yet to run but think they can't. Spoiler, you can. This is a podcast called I Would Not, Could Not Run. I'm Oliver Turnbull, and I host this with my good friend and running mentor, with whom we've shared something unique very recently, which we'll talk about in a minute, Andrew Tudbury. Andrew, how are you doing?
Hello, Ray. Oliver, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm great. Better than I felt yesterday, and we'll discuss why that was. So tell me, Andrew, how's your week been? What have you been up to? Any running, question mark?
Well, first of all, it's nice to be promoted to running mentor. I thought it was running sidekick, but that's great.
Oh God, no. In terms of running, you are who I go to.
Bloody. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Cool. Yeah. I'm very well actually. My foot, which is fairly boring, but I do have a sore left foot. People who are regular listeners will have heard about it for a bit.
My sore left foot. This is a short series of films in first draft,
Yes.
And then they changed it. Anyway, carry on.
I don't think it's going to go ahead. Maybe there'll be a pilot or something. It's getting better, I think. I ran a 10K yesterday, which we can talk a bit more about. As an experiment, I haven't really been running very much for the last 6 weeks. I've been running a little bit, and I haven't run at all for the last 2 weeks, actually. And I ran yesterday 10K, and it was a little bit sore, but feeling better today. So, yes. And how about you, Oliver?
Well, I think we can probably reveal our big secret is that, you always run with people. I never, ever, ever do, because I don't like talking. I just like concentrating either on the music podcast or getting through it. But we ran together in the London 10, which is a 10K. There's also 5K and a 10 miler as well. But we did the 10K, my first ever, my second ever, did one in training, but my first ever competitive, obviously, if you can call it that. And we ran together because Andrew was injured, so he ran super slow. I ran probably a little bit too fast, but I'm about recovered now, although my foot is hurting a little bit, my ankle on the left hand side, and we did it. We came in I think our chip time was about 1:07, which was not bad for me, and there was probably a couple of minutes shuffling around, and it was longer than 10K, so I was quite pleased with that time. And Andrew was with me the whole way. And he was gossiping, he was giving me advice, he was telling me to slow down sometimes, he was offering me gels, and at first I wasn't used to it, and I couldn't reply because I don't like talking, so I felt rude. But then, of course, I've known Andrew long enough, it was fine. It was really rather comforting to have his presence by my side all the way around. So, yeah, we finished the London 10 yesterday, didn't we, Andrew?
Yes, yeah. It was, again, it's just so inspiring doing races, and if any runners or would-be runners listening who maybe haven't really thought of anything like racing, I mean, the races are incredibly informal, and there's all abilities from, elites and sub-elites all the way down to people pretty much walking. So there's nothing to feel embarrassed about. Whatever pace you run is absolutely fine. And it's just amazing just to run around at some new place with lots of organisation and lots of people cheering you on and clapping. Yeah, and we ran around the Olympic Park, which is a fantastic place in itself and inspirational, just to walk around it, let alone run around.
Yeah, and it reasonably flat. And you're right, it was lovely. You felt like, you felt like you were a sports person, which, of course, I've never felt like before in my life, because you're all lined up. There's probably a couple of thousand of us in the 10K, I'd have thought. And everyone's getting sort of excited and shuffling. There are people at the front who are seriously rapid, and then there are all sorts of levels. Like you said, I wasn't the slowest, which I was absolutely shocked about, and not even in my age group. And yeah, it was, but I have to say it was hard work. I can't sugarcoat this. It was raining to begin with, and then the sun came out and was beating down, sort of, not exactly beating in November, but it was not easy. It was a struggle. It was good to have Andrew keeping on encouraging me, but I did get it in my head that I wanted to run fast, which is fast for me, by the way, which is about 6.5 minutes per kilometre. And I probably overdid it because I did feel wasted at the end. And I've got to remember that we're approaching 60. I've only been running for 18 months, and we've got to be careful and got to enjoy it. So that was my lesson learned. But the great thing is, I woke up this morning a bit achy, but ready to do another run. A nice, slow, recovering 5K, because I probably pushed myself probably a little bit too hard, but got a good time. Got a time that I was really happy with. So it was absolutely brilliant. So when I finished, I felt almost like I had flu or something. I felt like my body had been beaten up. But now I'm starting to think, oh, what's the next one? And it was good for you, I guess, Andrew, because you didn't hurt yourself anymore. Obviously, you completed
Yes.
quite easily, and you're not in pain.
A little bit of aching, but yeah, it could have been an awful lot worse. So I think on the basis of this, I will probably go back to slow running. I'll probably try and introduce a 5K on the coming Wednesday and Friday, and we'll see how that goes. And this is the lives of real runners, recreational runners. We've both been running quite a long time, and injuries come and injuries go, and this is just the way it is. We're sort of learning how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. We are runners now. That's good. And because we were doing a run on Sunday, me and my wife did our first marshalling at Park Run. We promote Park Run a lot on this podcast because it's absolutely fabulous. If you don't know what it is, you basically turn up. You find out where the local park run is, you turn up and you run 5K. It doesn't cost you anything and you get a lovely time. And they're looking for volunteers all the time. We volunteered and we marshalled. And that was fun as well, just encouraging people just to run together, chatting or really competitively. Yeah. And not only that, the guy who won the 10K comes from our local park run. So that was quite good. Gosh. Yeah, 33 minutes for a 10K, which is seriously rapid. I think he's trained as a Team GB or whatever. I've met him, and he's a bit of a celebrity round Gillingham Way. And yeah, he won the 10K. So it got us thinking, didn't it? Really, we've been talking about running further. I know I'm a rank amateur, and you're sort of getting there, but. This has been my first leap in moving from relatively short distance to something a little bit longer. So we've talked about running further before. So we've put together, well, you've put the running order together, really. Something about running further. And if you do have that ambition, and it's not necessarily to go faster further, just you want to use running as a more extended way of exercising, let's talk about how to do it. 5K, the couch to 5K is the classic, and it's often said that the first 5K is the hardest to get to, and I think that's right. I think getting from 0 to 5 for me was harder than getting from 5 to 10. But well, we'll start off with the pros and cons, Andrew. What are your thoughts on the good things about extending that? Which of course is voluntary. You can run exactly how you want to run. But what are your thoughts on the pros and cons?
Well, I guess I could have just kept running 5K forever in a way. So, I mean, we could talk about why I decided to sort of start moving into longer distances. But it's the right thing to do in terms of fitness, actually, I think. So with your running fitness, up to a point, as long as you're not getting injuries, the more running volume you can put in, the fitter you're going to get. So I was running 5Ks for the first few years with my wife Rachel, and then I think back in about 2022, I started to watch some running YouTube videos, starting to read a few books, and decided to up the distance to 10K. And I think we dropped the speed quite a lot. And we were running at probably 7:30 kilometres. Apologies for the imperial. If anyone's listening who doesn't do kilometres, I can't do that in my head. Probably about double that. So because we dropped the speed and we started we did a few 7Ks and then we just kept running because it felt okay. And then we ended up settling on about 10K. And 10K is a really good distance. In terms of sort of busy people and time, because it can take something, if you're an average runner, between 15 minutes and an hour and 20, something like that, and it's not going to take over the entire day, but it's something that you can really settle into and you can really cover some distance, and you can maybe, if you're in a small town, you could probably run around the town in 6 miles, so you can see some interesting places. It doesn't take over the whole day, but you're really getting quite a long workout. So that's what we ended up doing for years. it was not until last year that we started to increase the distance from about 10k to 15k and then 20k. We did a first half marathon, sort of first half marathon race this year, which was the London landmarks, and that was spectacular and great fun and being cheered around London by 20,000 people, with 20,000 people running. That was a whole thing in itself. So it's a natural thing to add in to your running. So you don't need to not do 5Ks. In fact, you can do. It's actually a good thing to do, to mix up your running, to do some fast running and some slow running. So maybe do a slow 10k or 2 or 3, and then a faster 5k, and that's exactly what I do, and I think that's quite a common mix for recreational runners. How about you?
It's almost like a
Oliver,
different.
then? So,
It's almost like a different sort of exercise, 5 to 10k. I was going to say. So I was never going to do 10k. I thought 5k, couch to 5k. I've done it. I've finished. Yeah, I've finished that level. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go and buy the next edition. I'm just going to stop there. But then I was tempted, because I was the only one of our little group who go running. You, me, and Freddie and Louise and Charlie. I thought, I'm the only one doing 5k now, so that's a bit stupid. I feel a bit left out. And although it was nice because I finished first and could cheer you all in, I thought, no, I'm going to have to do this. And I just obeyed. Lots of these things about running are so simple as well. I obeyed the sort of 10% rule, and I put out a little schedule. And I thought, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 10% more miles per week, roughly. And so I upped one of my 5Ks to 6K, and then I did 2 6Ks the next, and then I did 6 and a 7, and I think you get the picture. And these are augmented with a 5K on Saturday with Park Run, and so slowly I picked up, and I did did a couple of 9 kilometres, and you'd given me some energy juice, you'd recommended some energy juice, so I took that, and I sort of sped around the last 2 kilometres and thought, oh, wait a minute. I'm Mo. And he said Mo Salah. I'm Mo Farah. I'm the fastest man on earth, and that got a bit of a rude awakening on Sunday. But yeah, just build it up gradually, and don't stop as well as good. I mean, it's absolutely perfectly okay to stop. But what I found is, because my body was used to 5k, I'd get to the 6k and go, this is impossible. There's no way I can double this. That's insane. And so that would be really hard. So I'd pound through that, not fast. I'd slow down, and then normally I got something out the other end, which is, I think, your mind saying, oh God, this bloke's serious. He actually is going to run 10k. That's insane. But whatever, he's in charge. And off you go. So that's kind of what I did. Nothing too scientific, unless using 10% is that. I suppose it's
well, there's something about you
telling
your body. So you being in charge of your body and asking your body to run for twice as long as it has done before. And I think, as we've said before, the job that your brain has to do is simply instructing your body to do things that it is not familiar with doing. It is actually very tiring. So not just the physical activity of the putting one foot in front of the other, just the mental job you have to do in order to keep all that happening. And the more you do it,
because you're balancing 90 kilos in a couple of dimensions, aren't you? And that's that takes. I think it's sort of. I would put in a note of caution though, as we approach 60. I think again on Sunday, I kind of been working on the mental side, so I've been working on the keeping going. So I kept going, and you've just got to be a little bit careful that our bodies are more than half a century old, with all that sort of wear and tear. Just don't be an absolute crazy person about it, because you can probably overdo it and make yourself feel a bit beaten up after, which isn't the idea at all. I imagine when you're younger you bounce back a lot better, but it took me a long time to bounce back, and you don't necessarily want that. So be amazed at what your mind can do, but I suppose you'd say don't overdo it.
There's a sort of a fine line between legitimate suffering, which you get when you're pushing yourself a bit, and the point when you're feeling genuinely terrible. And I don't think we want to pass into that. So and only you can be the judge of that. When there's that moment when you pass into somewhere that truly is unpleasant, and then that's when you probably need to stop and walk for a bit, or stop and take stock.
Yeah, I mean, one of about 5 syllables that I managed to utter to you on that 10K, 3 of them were wasted at 8 kilometres when you asked me how I felt. And I was like, terrible. And
I kept telling myself, don't ask Oliver how he's feeling. Don't ask Oliver how he's feeling.
Well, you could tell from
Yeah.
the fact that I'd gone pretty grey. But overall, fantastic event. If I had my time again, I would listen to you and just, bloody hell.
There were some
just slow down a bit.
porcine noises coming from you in the last couple of K.
I think I covered most of the mammalian species, actually, in terms of my gasping
I
and,
think there was some gazelle as well, I think.
yeah. But I think we're inevitably going to go back to Born to Run, aren't we, I guess, and talk about that.
Well, there's one more thing I just wanted to mention, which is I don't want to harp on about my foot, but just something that occurred to me. I've been running these 310Ks for the last couple of years or so, and that just becomes almost part of your identity. I'm a runner and I run 310Ks a week, and it's actually quite a big deal stopping that. And I'm not stopping it because I'm feeling too tired, or because I'm out of breath, or because I'm not enjoying it. I'm stopping it because I've got an irritating ache in my left foot, and I kind of need to accept that I'm actually detraining at the moment. So my fitness is going down because I'm not running as much as I was. I am trying to keep the exercise up on my bicycle, and I'm going off and doing 20k loops on the bike. But it's really, really hard to get the same level of exercise on a bike that you do when you run. I mean, cycling is excellent for cross training, but it's a different sort of exercise, and you just end up coasting on a bicycle when you can't really coast when you run. So I'm detraining at the moment, and no one likes getting worse, and it's almost like a salutary lesson in humility and patience, and I just need to give myself time to heal and just not get too frustrated and cross, and I'm far from being any kind of very fit athlete, but I just don't like the idea of I haven't watched my VO2 max dropping, but I think Garmin's been quite kind. It's got it pegged at the same place, but I think I'm detraining. So yeah, I just need to accept that, and I think I'm doing that. And it's also worth pointing out that it wasn't the running distances that have caused my problem. It was me that done it, Governor. So I did some silly things which I think covered in previous episodes, to do with trying to change how I landed on my foot, and then I ran through a calf injury, and that's what's done this. So don't be like me and cause your own problems. But if you do, and you do get an injury and you need to detrain for a bit, then that's fine. There's plenty of time. You spend some time detraining and recovering, and spend some time training and getting your fitness back.
Yeah, that's your mantra, isn't it? Really, that's fine. Which is exactly right. It is. Maybe there's something in the masculine psyche that just wants to push it and get faster, which is ridiculous, to the point where we hurt ourselves. And that is ridiculous, particularly at our and you're tinkering. Combine that with your tinkering, and then you're bound to cripple yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So next stop is the. What's the name of those? Zimmer frame, Mr. Zimmer's shop. Yes.
Well, that won't stop me doing my 5K.
No.
My Zimmer.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, but back to Born to Run and along the. Is it the Tarahumara? I always get the name wrong. The Tarahumara. We've talked about these before, of course, because they're a large inspiration. And there's loads of documentaries on YouTube, actually, which is such a great place for documentaries now. So I had a look at that, and these amazing guys running on old car tires with flapping shirts up and down the mountains against these, these Americans who would have the latest tech. But yeah, I suppose we can't really talk about going a bit further without going to the utter extreme.
Well, that's what got me started, really. Moving on from 5K. So I think when I started running, I didn't know that there was any such thing as really long distances for normal people like me. I didn't think that was. I didn't really think about it. I don't think, and then it wasn't until I started reading some books on running, like Born to Run, when I started to understand that normal people did run these longer distances. And who doesn't want to be an ultra runner after reading about these heroic races across the roof of the world. And the concept that humans evolved to run is incredibly beguiling. And once you read that, you just want to take it further. So if anyone needs any more inspiration to start running or to increase their distances, then go back and read Born to Run if you haven't already read it, or look at some of the other running books like 80-20 Running, which talks about slow running and fast running and mixing it up, and fat burning and all the health that goes alongside the health and the science that sort of goes alongside the running. So it's not quite the rip roaring adventure story Born to Run is. It's a book about science running, but again very inspirational, because you're being taught at as though you are a athlete, and that's a great thing to sort of consider yourself to be, I guess. So that's what I think. I think these early books and some YouTube got me into the 10Ks, and then 15, 20, and perhaps beyond one day.
What's your if you wanted to be a renowned nearly sexagenarian runner, would your distance be 20, 10 marathon? What do you like doing?
Well, I think I've come to understand about myself that I always think what I'm doing now is the right answer. So that's and that's not always a very good answer. So I tend to think that because I'm now running 10Ks, and I think, the 5Ks, what I really need to do is just settle into 10Ks, and 20K seems quite difficult. But now I know that there are people at my local running club who spend there's a guy that I talk to who runs a marathon a month, pretty much, and doesn't do much running other than that. So he does a bit of running at the track, but doesn't really regularly. Hasn't got a very busy weekly running schedule, but it does do a marathon a month. And
Wow.
for me, the marathon is still in a slightly unattainable department. So when I run 10K, for me feels like that's absolutely fine, and it's not something I would even bother about. When I do 20K, I do not feel like I want to go and do another 20K or even another 5K. So 20K to me feels like that's plenty. But then I think that's simply because I'm just not doing it. So I don't have the adaptations for 20K. But even as a knocking on the door of 60-year-old, I think both of us, it's really just a question of training and time. And at some point we will knock up against our physical limits, in which case you just have to understand when that's happened. So if my physical limit ends up being 22K, and then I try a few of those and it's absolutely horrific, then you need to take that on the chin and keep going. There's no point trying to become a 50K ultra runner if that's beyond your physical limits. So it's a really difficult question to answer. 10K is great because it doesn't take that much time. Running 20K, I mean, for me, that's going to be at least a couple of hours, really, because I wouldn't be running particularly fast. And that's quite a hole in the day, because once you've warmed up and warmed down, that's a half a day, really. And then to do that, 2 or 3 times a week, so suddenly your 7 days worth of time is actually shrinking quite a lot.
Yeah. I like the 10K as well. I've started because you can sort of slow down and speed up and still get a quite decent time. I was reading stuff where people are referring to 5K as a sprint, and I'm like,
Oh yes,
that far.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, you talk about running on the track as well. We ran on the track outside the Olympic Park, didn't we? Oh, it was lovely and bouncy the first time.
Isn't it?
Second time, I was probably having close to physical breakdown. But running on the track was quite good fun. But I think I probably see 10K as you see a 20. I aspire to that being a nice, comfortable distance. And so you've got to tell us about if we're going to talk ultra. Let's go as ultra as it goes, probably, which is the backyard ultra. Can you just explain what the backyard ultra is?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason that I wanted to mention this was because it was one of the things that popped into my YouTube list when as soon as you start, Googling and not Googling, searching for stuff on ultras, something about the backyard ultra will end up in your playlist, and it's just one of those insanely simple torture devices. The more you think about it, the more horrific and incredible it sounds. So essentially, it is just simply a 4-mile repeated loop, and the new lap begins every hour, and then it's the last person standing. And that's essentially the rules. So you could run. Let's say you're running at a pretty comfortable 7 minutes per kilometre, which would be about 11 minutes per mile, something like that. And that would be a very comfortable pace for the kind of people who would be running this, but maybe they would settle on that pace because they want to pace themselves. So that would mean that you complete a lap in 45 minutes, and then you'd have 15 minutes in order to do everything else that you need to do, which would go to the loo or have some food or have a sleep. And then you keep going, and you keep going until you can't go any further. And you think, well, how many laps do people do? Is it 20, 30? So the record is 119 laps, 497
That's mind-blowing.
miles across
mind-blowing.
something like five days. And you think what that actually means. So you're just running through the day, through the night. So everything that you need to do in those 5 days has to fit into that hourly cycle. So if you want to, you have to get in your loop, and then fit in a little bit of sleep, a little bit of hygiene stuff, whatever it is you want to do, and just it completely does my head in. So it's a fascinating thing to understand and to watch. And then when you come away from all of that, and you're running a 5k or a 10k, you think, well, I can probably do a 15k then. And that's what it left me. I think Rachel and I were watching this, and we were just thinking about extending our 5ks, and you think, well, and like all of these things, you watch the people who are running, and there are the elites there, sure, and the gazelle people, but there are also some people who don't look so different to me and you. Some bigger, some meatier people, who are setting out, and perhaps they only do 50 laps or 30 laps. But,
Yeah,
extraordinary.
it's just so weird because the amount of rest you get is also a function of how fast you are. So that's sort of double thing. So when you start struggling and you start running 50 and then 55, then you're getting no sleep, and then bang, you're gonna drop out quite quickly. 6.7 kilometers. So it's calibrated so you run 100 miles, imperial, His Majesty's miles, in 24 hours. So hence,
I didn't know that.
I still can't believe it's possible.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's 100 miles a day. So that's obviously why 119 is very nearly 5 days. So yeah, 500 miles. I just have to emphasize that we're talking miles. It's absolutely crazy. And because the first time you go, well, hang on a minute, because it's 4.16667 miles. You go, yeah, I could do that in an hour, and then have a little rest, and then do another hour, and then do another 117 of those hours. Yeah. And it's such a brilliant. I like it because you can do the maths. As well, it's nicely mathematic. It's nicely clean. It's a really clean event. Not clean in terms of how you look at the end, but clean in terms of what you have to do. You have to run round this, and it's small enough to be called a backyard, and you've got to do it until you fall over and hallucinate, presumably, which is what you must do.
Just brings focus. Just I mean, that is one of the things about running is the sense of purity, because when you're running, there are no Zoom calls, there's no having to do your morning meeting, there's no dropping the kids off. It's simply, when you're running, all you need to do is run, and you've allowed yourself that time, and there's something very meditative and focused about that. And then when you move into a race situation, it's that only more so, because you've got even more permission to do that, because it's an organised thing and everyone else is doing it. And then you move into the ultra situation. So and just everything just amplifies itself.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we've talked about sort of getting to that zone where it's almost hypnotic. And I was a bit cynical about that, certainly when I started running. But when I did the sort of second or third 8K, I always struggled halfway. So I struggled at about 4. And then on 1 or 2 of the runs, I just got into that motion where I was tired at a level that I could keep going. seemingly forever in my mind. And that rhythm was just perfect. And when I looked at my Strava when I got back, the speed was exactly the same on virtually every kilometre. So I've sort of glimpsed what it must be like to be one of those talented runners who can run for a long time in a almost like a hypnotic state, and nothing else existed at that point, except the rhythm of the legs plodding around the tarmac of the River Medway. Well, not on the River Medway, the side of the River Medway. So I've sort of had a glimpse of that, and it's really quite pleasant. And it's like you say, everything goes out the window. It's probably very good for mental health in terms of clearing out the clutter which causes modern day man and woman so much stress.
I think there's a reason why. I think there's a reason why we want to run, and there are quite a few reasons. I think there's the buzz you get from the endorphins, but there's also getting this time, this little sort of time boxed window in order for you to do something which is incredibly simple and under your control. The other. Just while we're talking about the various other races, there's obviously the Dragon's Back, and we heard from the incredible David Lodge last week, who ran and completed that, and that's on another scale completely. Amazing. Again in terms of the
still
ascent.
Amazes me.
Yeah,
and he's a normal bloke. I don't want to be some sort of superhuman other variety of human being, but he's just like, oh yeah, and then it was a bit tough on the third day. Yeah.
I think a carbon fibre titanium rod runs through him. It's absolutely. And then there's the UTMB, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc series, and I think there are other mountains available, but there's UTMB, which is 170k, 10,000 metre ascent and descent around the sort of mountains of France. Which seems a bit like a little stroll compared with the Dragon's Back, but that's also considered to be one of the world's toughest races. And if you search for that on YouTube, you'll see that the production levels are incredible. So it's very cinematic, the footage that you'll see. So if you're just curious about watching some well presented and professional ultra running content and some serious, the world's best ultra running athletes, people all go to UTMB. It's a staggering thing to watch. Running up in the Alps, you can think of it, hardly think of anything more impressive than that. But that's a great way to sort of get into watching ultras.
Yeah, the other thing about ultras is, which is very interesting, is how well the women do at their longer distances, showing any sort of prejudiced men that actually over the longer distances, eventually the women catch up.
The physical differences
so it's
start
not
to
necessarily
drop.
about. Yeah, it's not. That's right. It's amazing. The difference between the performance of men and women gets so close. In fact, the documentary I was watching about the Tarahumara, where their athlete came third. I think the first was a guy, and then the second was a woman. So it's sort of like a little bit like equestrian sport, where it's far more egalitarian. So after a certain point, it must become so much more psychological, and where the women compete with the men.
Yeah, well, it's no longer about pure power. It's about power to weight, and men and women can have equivalent power to weights. I think. So.
Right, of course.
And
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and mentally, it's similar. The similar stresses and similar adaptations for long running have to be in place.
Yeah, I mean, the long talk about sport and men and women and equality and stuff, it's really nice to know that at the extremes, there is no distance between us, which is really, really interesting. Yeah. So it's good. So, yeah. So we maybe want to talk about any special prep required. What do you think? If you're thinking of upping the distance, we've touched about gradualness over time. Is there anything else that we should consider if we're thinking of sort of upping the distance?
Similar things to what I came across when I when I started that myself. I would suggest if you're thinking about running longer distances, wait until the current distance you're doing feels relatively easy. So if you're running 5k and 5k feels terrible, then maybe you're not ready to do 7k. It seems a bit of a no-brainer that. So once 5k started to feel comfortable, then try 6 or try 7, which is what seemed to work pretty well for me. And just be aware that once you're running longer distances, it's worth just clocking whether you're going to get to be quite a long way from home. So you might need to take some stuff with you, take a phone or take something warm if it's winter, because you don't want to get marooned, miles away from home. So on the 10k we just did, I was conscious that I might well get stuck and have to walk back. So I packed a sort of body warmer in my hydration pack, just in case my foot gave out, at the far end of the course, which could be, 3 miles away from the start line. So then, in the darkest winter, and it could have been snowing, and suddenly you're wet with sweat, and you're 3 miles from home. That's actually quite a dangerous situation to be in. You can get cold really, really quickly. So if you have one of these hydration vests, which are a brilliant idea because they're like little tiny backpacks, they have a little storage zip things at the back. They've got places to put water in. You've got zip places all over the place to put your glasses in, your wallet and stuff. And you can easily fit in a sort of compressible body warmer or wind cheater or a Mac into the backpack of that, and also keep hydrated. So if larger people are going to be running 10Ks, I would just say get one of these hydration packs, and I use a Salomon Advanced 12, which it's a pricey one. I think they're around £100, something like that, but they're just brilliant. They've been honed and honed and honed over various versions. They just work really, really well. And then you won't find yourself, with no phone or with no food if you've run out of, glycogen or no water, etc. Yep. So
the kit you had on Sunday was absolutely brilliant. It was mind-blowing. I think you're right about it's probably worth spending a little bit. What I've found is the cheap stuff is a bit tacky, and but I did buy a light for my winter running, so I've got a really overpowered spotlight which lights up the whole pavement if I'm running at night. But your kit was brilliant, and that's right. If you're stranded from home, freezing cold, in the snow, sweating, possibly injured, so you're possibly limping, that could be, it's even if it's not life-threatening, it's unpleasant as hell. I remember your hydration kit, which I haven't bought yet. I haven't invested in one, but you definitely had. And I think at about 8 kilometres, you offered me a suckle on your teat. And it just felt far too much like Romulus and Remus suckling on a she-wolf.
Well, I was going to
quite
video that,
stomach it. Yeah, you sort of poked it in my general direction. I pretended to not notice, but it was tempting because I was quite thirsty. But it just felt far too much like, you started lactating, and I was, and you were my,
that's a whole nother podcast,
mummy.
really.
You were my wet nurse around about 8 kilometres. It didn't feel right, but other stuff. And we should probably put a kit list. We'll do an episode on tech. We should probably put a kit list on the website so that people can have your recommendations.
The ultra stuff. So if you do have the means to spend a little bit more. So if you buy something, bargain basement, the trouble is it just won't have been tested. So it'll be a copy of something probably, and it's likely to fall apart and it won't work very well. If you buy the stuff that the ultra guys use, then you know that it's going to, if it survives 300 miles of sort of mountain running, and you can see these guys using them, it'll be fine for you. And mine's been fine for years, and it's pretty indestructible. So it's a really sensible thing to have, especially in the winter and for summer, even because of the water, the hydration.
Yeah, and you had a gel as well that you offered me at 8K, the dark kilometre, as I call it. So you carry some nourishment with you, which I think is also.
I always carry them just in case. So I wouldn't normally have a gel on a 10K unless if I was doing a PB, I might have one halfway through or something just for fun. But Yeah, I mean, if you're doing something new, if you're doing a new distance, then there's no point not having a gel because you're not sure what's holding you back. So if it turns out to be lack of glycogen, then just have a gel, and you'll either feel the same or better.
Yeah, and sort of security blanket maybe.
Yeah, sure.
After a while, you think you've got a gel in your
Psychological,
pocket.
yeah, a bit of placebo.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, layers. You seem to have about 30 layers of different fabrics on you, which I think worked really well on Sunday because it was really wet and cold to begin with, and actually quite warm in the sun afterwards. And me having two layers, I was extremely cold / extremely hot in that period. So it feels to me like you're going to tell me layers are quite important because it gives you options.
Yeah, options, exactly that. Yeah, so that's exactly. So you can obviously, if you're wearing layers, you can take things off. So I did actually the day before sit down for 45 minutes and think, what the hell am I going to wear? Because it was a very strange temperature. It was hovering around sort of 5 or 6 in the morning, going up to maybe 9 or 10. Heavy rain forecast, but which was then dying out. So you're going to need probably some sort of weather protection while the race is starting. But then it may well warm up, and actually it did, and the sun came out. So I ended up with a very, very packable Gore-Tex, very, very light rain jacket, which almost sort of collapses up into the palm of your hand. A running, very, very lightly insulated jacket, and then just my running top. So those things,
Yeah, it looked good.
the sort of the body warmer keeps the warmth in over the top of your running top, and then on top of that goes a Gore-Tex or rain, waterproof packable thing. So then you're not going to get wet and cold before the race starts.
Yeah, I mean, I often think I'm not, a good enough athlete yet to deserve spending money on, but that's absolute nonsense. It's definitely well worth getting some nice kit if you're going to run regularly. You deserve it, and it feels good. And it actually looks quite good as well.
Well, you think about the cost of running.
Quite impressed.
So, yeah, I was just sorry to talk over you there. Yeah, I was just thinking about getting excited about the lack of cost of running. So if you buy a hydration vest, for example, then that's going to last you, I'm thinking 5 years, or something like that, and that's 120 quid that's going to last. So because there's no membership fees, I think probably the big expense for runners is replacing shoes every year. I think that's about it.
So what's that? Less than 100 quid, or around 100 quid, let's say. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, that's right. And you amortize that over a year. Capital depreciate your hydration vest. I mean, as an accountant your accountant will love you. The other thing you were talking about as well earlier was running with a purpose, and that is not just to get fit, but actually using it as a form of transport, which seems like quite profound. So using your newly muscular legs and arms as a form of transport. So if you've got to go somewhere, go on your legs. You're talking about your MOT or something, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, so I was wondering about talking about routes, and so if you're running 5K, then you can probably string together a 5K route in your head pretty much from your local area. But once you get 10K, then you might need to plot it on a map. So then you could use Strava actually, and Strava is really good for you can plug in 10K circular route, and it will draw you one, and it will draw on routes from other people who are near you. So that's great. So you can quite easily have some nice routes in your locality. But then something else, I find it incredibly attractive as an idea, and this probably harks back to good old born to run, the idea that humans evolved to run, and we used to run for transport, and now we run because it's a sport or a hobby. So I have to take my car to the garage, which happens to be about 4 or 5 miles away. So I will now run back from the garage after I've dropped the car off, and then the garage will phone me up and say the car's ready, and I will then run to the garage and pick the car up. And, there's something incredibly satisfying about not just doing the local loop, but actually running to a destination in order to do something. You could even do some light shopping. I'm not saying you do your weekly Sainsbury's shop, but if you have to go to the post office to get something light, or you have to, the MOT is an obvious one if that's not done by your main dealer. Yeah. So,
Well,
so
maybe not pick up your mother-in-law. No, that's
well, you could
that's
get.
probably
I
not
think you can
ideal.
get carts, can't you, for those
Depends on the size.
mother-in-law
Yeah.
carts? I think I've seen those on Amazon.
Yeah, that's right. And you do the park run with them, and I don't know whether she'd like that. But you talk about this adventure as well. It is. This is about the kit as well. We've talked about this before. It's sort of fantasy that you're some kind of special ops, or you're a scout, or indeed the original guy who did the original marathon. He was a comms guy, wasn't he? He's
Yes,
PR. The
don't
guy.
shoot the
I can't remember his
messenger.
name
Yeah.
now. Yeah, and I don't think he dropped down dead. And I can relate to that now, having run around the London Stadium too many times.
Yep.
But this idea of I think you used the word heroic, but yeah, you can just sort of pretend that that someone's life depends on this amazing run that you're doing. It's strange what fantasies pop into your head.
Yes. Yes. Or just run to the car garage to pick your car up. Let's just keep it simple. If you can think of a reason to run for a purpose, then that's just a nice thing to do, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about some of the cons. I'm not sure they're cons so much as things to be aware of. So we've talked, it takes a lot longer to go a lot further. And, one of the things that appeals to me about running over cycling, and cycling's fantastic as well, is you don't need that much time. You can do a cheeky 5K in just over half an hour in my case, and you've sort of done for the day. And the other thing is, we talked about being a long way from home if we get ourselves injured. And I suppose, without having any stats to hand, you would imagine that the risk of injury as you extend your distances, I suppose as you extend your body beyond where it's been before, the worry about injuries possibly is more something to
I do worry about
concern
that.
yourself
Yeah,
with.
and that's what I worry about with extending distances. So I think the answer to that is to do it carefully and gently. So if you're running if you're regularly running 10k, then 20k is going to seem difficult. If you're regularly running 20k, then 40k will seem difficult. So you just don't double it. You just take it easy. So I just think that's the answer. And then at some point you may or may not reach your physical limit and find that really for me marathons are just not going to be the thing that I should be doing. I don't know actually. But maybe maybe.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. So the thing I learned was I gradually went from 5 to 6, and it was really difficult. So my body for the last over a year has been doing a 5K, and it's sort of like resolved with the fact that I'm going to do that. And it's sort of like, yeah, whatever, go on then. But I got to 6, and actually I struggled because what I wanted to do was keep a pace of faster than 7 minutes per kilometre, which is very, very steady, let's say. Yeah. And I struggled to get under 7 minutes for a 6 kilometre, and that really discouraged me for a while. And then I got back into it, and then eventually once I got 6, the move to 7 was a bit difficult. Then the move to 8 was actually quite easy, and I got to 8 under 7 minutes per kilometre really easily, straight away almost. So the one thing I would say was that if you're aiming to double your distance and you feel like you're struggling at the first increment of that, don't worry about it, because your body is doing something it hasn't done before. Even if it only feels like 10%, 15% more, it's doing something it hasn't done before. It's possibly going to complain, either physically or mentally. So that was good. So my acceleration, going from 5 to 10, in terms of how quickly I got up the distance, increased over time, and I had some really good 8 and 9k runs, which made me feel really good. So I overdid it on the Sunday. So it never stops. This retuning your stupid ego versus what is going to make you have a good run. But now let's go back to the big M. So you're saying that you might not do a marathon. Have you done one in the past, or is it just halves?
Well, as I said, I'm always. I always think what I'm doing at the moment is the right answer, so I'm not really a very good person to answer. So when I was running 5k, I thought 10k was silly, etc. So I mean, I do know that the marathon is a distance which the human body is less well adapted to run. So I think something funny happens at the 17, 18 mile mark where we start to have problems to do with serious problems with fueling and running out of just glycogen. So there's a considerable amount of training needs to be done, and also you have to get your fueling and your hydration right. That's not to say that it's not all very surmountable, and obviously hundreds of thousands of people manage it. I tend to think that marathon distances are not necessarily something that you should be running every week or even every month, even though my friend does that. So I think, you know, the shorter 10 to 20k distances, I feel quite comfortable with running. I think a marathon is something that you train for and maybe do once or maybe twice and then probably leave it at that. But that's only because that's where my head is at the moment, and also because it seems like such a mountain to climb from where I am. Because 20k feels like I don't want to do another 5, you know, certainly not another 20.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? We go back a lot to what we've evolved to do. So let's keep doing what we've evolved to do. And there does seem like there is that jump in a marathon where it's just that little bit further than what we're evolved to do. As the first guy who ran from marathon, or was it 2 marathon? Anyway, marathon was involved, who dropped down dead. However, that's not a reason not to do it, because it's an incredible achievement. And like you say, hundreds of thousands of people do it.
So I think we need a marathon runner to come on the podcast and talk to us about why that's a stupid
I think that's
idea.
Exactly what we need.
Because we're just ignorant.
I think that's
really what we're talking about.
Yes, that's right.
And there's a whole.
Doesn't stop me doing a podcast.
Obviously, this discussion we've had today is almost about ultras, and you know there are people like David Lodge running 380 kilometres in 5 days. So clearly, you know, many people would be completely able to be trained up to run a marathon. I think the question I've got is how does that fit into your annual training program? So if you're not really running for any particular, you know, goal, then where does a marathon sit? So I'm quite happy running my 320Ks a week and a fast 5K track session. I'd be quite happy doing that for a long time. You know, would it be good for me, say, to put a marathon in twice a year? I don't know. But that's something.
Good point.
It's worth thinking about. You know,
and it's probably worth asking an expert. Let's do that.
Yes, we'll have to find someone.
Let's get someone good on the podcast. I think that's what we need.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, there must be someone. All right. Well, let's leave that one hanging. I just want to say thank you again for being my companion. I didn't know whether I'd like it, but I did. The honest voice of reason and a bit of gossip, which is quite nice.
I'll bring the milk next time as well.
Perhaps in a bottle that isn't attached to your warm body, your warm breast. Okay. Probably might have made it a little bit more appealing.
Okay. That's a fair
but we
point.
got through. In a very reasonable time for me. So thanks for that.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks for this. This was very good. I'll see you on the next one, Andrew.
Fantastic. Yes, thanks very much, Oliver. Speak soon.
Cheers. And to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.